It is 8:51 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It is the 16th day of April 2026, and this is episode 1301 of Bitcoin. And I knew episode 1300 was going to bring bad luck, and it did. For the first time ever in the history of getting my episodes of Bitcoin and up to fountain.fm, episode 1300 was released yesterday. It is still not on Fountain. It's everywhere else, but it's not on Fountain. It's not Fountain's fault. Let me be upfront about that. Somehow or another, this is the one episode that never hit Podcast Index, which is a really important back-end infrastructure for the podcasting ecosystem. It's run by Dave Jones and Adam Curry, the Podfather himself, who used to be one of the very first video jockeys, the VJs of MTV days. He was he must have been 19 or 20 when he started working for MTV. It's kind of amazing. But Podcast Index is sort of their deal. And as you might imagine, because Adam Curry is sort of the guy that invented podcasting, he would be the dude that would be, curating or at least designing infrastructure for the curation of these kinds of things. And it always surprised me just how technical Adam Curry became. It's like you think of he's spent his life in radio, and then he went to MTV, and you kind of don't associate that with like being a highly, very, very technically competent person. I remember when I first learned just how technically competent Alex Lifeson, the guitar player from Rush, was. I mean, he's he's got this foot pad thing that he uses to control like all of his guitar effects and amplification and everything that he would need to go on stage. And somehow or another, I kept thinking that he just got somebody to design him one. No, he designed it himself. The guy is scary. These guys are fucking scary when it comes to just how technically competent they are. But getting back to the story at hand, as of right now, episode 1300 is everywhere except, that, as far as I can tell, everywhere except fountain.fm. And Oscar Mary, the guy behind Fountain.fm, has been made aware of the situation, and they are actually they're doing some of the best customer service because they are getting a hold of Dave Jones from the Podcast Index to see if we can get this episode to get re-uploaded into that index so that other platforms can get a hold of it. What I'm surprised about is that episode was able to go to all the platforms that it was able to get to without being on the Podcast Index. So that's now a question burning in my mind as to how that happened. But anyway, I knew something was going to happen with 1300. Just do me a favor, and because I will have 100 episodes that begin with the number 13. And no, I'm not going to skip it like hotels do where they don't have a 13th floor. I'm not going to skip it. I'm going to continue to do the 1300 series, but I'm going to need all of your goodwill and good wishes so that this just doesn't turn into a massive clusterfuck. Let's get into all the news that you can use with me, your host, David Bennett, here on the Bitcoin and Podcast. First up, Tether has moved over $70 million of Bitcoin to their reserves, according to on-chain data. Micah Zimmerman starts us off today out of Bitcoin Magazine, and he says Tether, issuer of the world's largest stablecoin USDT, has moved 951 Bitcoin valued at $70.5 million into a reserve wallet linked to its treasury operations, according to on-chain data from blockchain analytics firms, including Arkham Intelligence. The transfer originated from a Bitfinex hot wallet and landed in an address labeled as a Bitcoin reserve account tied to that company. The transaction aligns with a profit allocation policy introduced in 2023, in which Tether assigns 15% of net realized profit toward Bitcoin purchases every quarter. The approach converts revenue from stablecoin issuance into a growing Bitcoin position held on the company balance sheet. On-chain records show Tether's Bitcoin holdings have expanded into one of the largest corporate positions in the sector. Reserve addresses attributed to the company now hold 97,141 Bitcoin, placing Tether among the top holders of Bitcoin among private entities. Holdings include transfers accumulated over multiple purchase cycles beginning 2022. The purchases have been a steady source of demand for Bitcoin supply. Every allocation removes coins from exchange liquidity and moves them into long-term custody. The structure ties acquisition size to business revenue, which links stablecoin usage growth with Bitcoin accumulation. This strategy also affects perceptions of stablecoin reserve composition. Tether states that most backing for USDT consists of United States Treasury securities, with Bitcoin representing a smaller portion of total reserves. The addition of Bitcoin introduces price exposure to the reserve portfolio while maintaining dollar-linked liabilities. Yesterday, Tether announced the launch of Tethered wallet, a self-custodial digital wallet designed to bring its global financial infrastructure directly to end users, marking a shift from back-end liquidity provider to consumer-facing platform. The wallet supports key assets including USDT, Bitcoin, and tokenized gold, XAUT, focusing on what the company describes as essential stores of value for users, particularly in emerging markets. And built to simplify crypto usage, Tethered wallet introduces human-readable addresses and allows transaction fees to be paid in the transferred asset, eliminating the need for separate gas tokens. The app is fully self-custodial, with private keys stored locally on user devices. CEO Paolo Ardoino framed the launch as a major step toward financial inclusion, targeting billions underserved by traditional banking systems. The product builds on Tether's existing network, which the company claims reaches over 570 million users globally. That is not an insignificant percentage of the total global population, ladies and gentlemen. The wallet is powered by Tether's open source wallet development kit and supports multiple blockchains, including shitcoin number 1, number 2, and Bitcoin. The moves signals Tether's broader strategy to expand into direct user applications and enable future machine-to-machine and AI-driven payments. The biggest news here is that they are doing exactly what they say they're going to do, and they are buying Bitcoin and they are moving it to self-custody at a rate of 15% of quarterly net revenue. This is one of the reasons why I don't completely hate Tether. Well, okay. The company. I don't, as you know, I don't need Tether, like the token. I don't need a stablecoin. I have Bitcoin. I don't use it. But following the rise of the company named Tether and the things that they've invested in, I can't help but be kind of impressed. It's, I'm more impressed with Tether than I am with Strategy, even though Strategy owns a shit ton more Bitcoin. The reason is because I don't believe in derivatives. I just don't. I think that they're dangerous instrumentations in the financial world. But when I look at Tether, they're going, okay, well, we'll buy U.S. treasuries. Well, okay, yay. But they buy Bitcoin. They buy physical gold. They buy land. They invest in agricultural companies. This is the kind of shit I like to see. I can't help it. I can't hate them. See, that's the thing. Everybody wants me to hate something. You need to hate Trump. No, I don't want to hate Trump. You need to hate Tether, but I don't. You need to like really, really hate Monero and Zcash because they're shitcoins. They are shit coins. I don't hate them. I do hate Ethereum, but that comes organically. That's just me looking at something going, this is just too stupid. I'm not a fan of Monero because we really don't know how much Monero there is. And that's sort of in their privacy design. And that kind of makes me wonder, can there be too much of a good thing? And I'm not going to like lend the rest of my neurons to thinking about Monero or Zcash or whatever, because I kind of don't care. But the amount of people, like when I say, like, coming back to Trump, if I don't hate on Trump verbally in public, next to somebody who really hates Trump and has somehow or another figured out a way to engage me in a Trump-based discussion, and then I don't say anything bad about him, it's like they get frustrated with me. And I'm like going, Jesus, man, the Trump derangement syndrome is bad. But I really don't like it when people are like I'll say something like the fact that I don't hate the company Tether. And I will get pushback going, it's a shit coin. Okay, sure. I could agree with that, but I don't hate the company. Oh, well, Tether is designed to prop up Bitcoin and it's going to crash it. I don't see that. Well, then you clearly don't know what you're talking about. Why? Because I don't hate Tether? I mean, the amount of biases that we still have to contend with in this space is eye-watering. I mean, think about it. Think about it this way. Think about how you, like, especially all you hardcore Bitcoiners out there, how you feel about fiat currency and how you feel about the things that have been told to you in your past about fiat currencies that we have just now come to start calling fiat currencies. How many discussions have you had with your friends where you're trying to tell them how jacked up the financial system is because of the way fiat currency works and how it's controlled? And what's the pushback there? They just don't believe you. They think you're a tinfoil hatter, don't they? They dismiss it out of hand, don't they? You know better. And I actually mean that. I'm not being facetious nor sarcastic when I say that. We know better. But then think about something that has nothing to do with Bitcoin at all. Pick anything that you believe. Why aren't you questioning that? Really? Why aren't we questioning everything that we're being told we should think? Whether it has something to do with Bitcoin or finances or AI or, I don't know, how you feel about any, social movement. I mean, if we spent the amount of time it took to learn just how jacked up the financial system is, and we take the time and the energy to try to illustrate that to other people, then why aren't we looking at every single thing we've been told is bad? Some of us do, but even then, I guarantee you that we've got some bias somewhere. Like, for instance, the moon landing. In summer of 1969, I was a baby or something like that. I was actually alive. When we landed on the moon for the first time. I have always believed and never had a question in my mind about whether or not we landed on the moon. But then I have to actually think about, and let me caveat this, I still actually think we landed on the moon. But now I have to ask myself, why do I believe that? Was I there? Was I on the rocket ship? No. Was I even at Cape Canaveral when the Saturn V and the Apollo, 13 or Apollo 12, I can't remember, whichever Apollo mission actually landed on the moon? I was not there at Cape Canaveral to watch the launch. I was not in the capsule as an astronaut. I was not at mission control. I wasn't anywhere. In fact, I was, the only way I even knew about this is that I was told about it in school because I was too young to remember the actual thing happening. But if I had been like older, like let's say I was 10 years old at the time, and I was watching TV, that would have been my only information about what happened. But I wasn't there. I didn't get in the moon lander. I wasn't, Buzz Aldrin. Or whoever it was, oh God, who was it that Armstrong? I wasn't Armstrong. I didn't get out of the lander. I didn't set foot on the moon. I only know what I've been told. And I honestly think that it would be a lot healthier for all of us if we start questioning everything. Everything. And I'm sorry that I went off on a little rant there, but I think it's important, especially now. Like, is what's going on in Iran actually what's going on in Iran? Is what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan and the 9/11 and everything? Just pick one, man. Pick one. Pick anything. And start asking yourself questions. Why do I believe what I believe? What information do I actually have that supports the argument in my mind that this is true and good? And is there anything that's missing from that information that could possibly, I don't know, shake my belief in this X, Y, or Z that I've been told actually happened? If we're able to do this as Bitcoiners and look and question everything about what we know about the financial world, but we can't look at, did 9/11 actually happen? Or is the narrative that we've been told actually true? What is the information that makes it seem to us that it's actually true? And what information exists that might, I don't know, degrade our belief in that truth? If we can do it as Bitcoiners for money, fiat, treasury bills, and all of the rest of the bullshit that we now know is complete bullshit, then why can't we do it with other things? Because I think it would make our arguments around Bitcoin a lot stronger if we can go pull apart our biases, our presuppositions, our assumptions of everything that we've been told. And if we're not willing to do that, then maybe we're not actually Bitcoiners. Maybe we're just really in it for the money. Something to think about. And here's another thing to think about. Staying with Tether, remember the story I told you about Drift? And what is now, I think they're saying now that it's $148 million of funding from Tether is running into Drift. That was the platform that got hacked, not last week, but the week before. And I told you all about it. It's a DeFi platform, and they got hacked for a whole shit ton of money. And now, and one of the other stories behind that was that I brought you that Jeremy Allaire from Circle was defending their position at Circle as to why they didn't freeze the Circle accounts that had something to do with this Drift attack that occurred apparently from North Korean attackers. And even then I'm like, how do I know? How do I know there was North Korean attackers? I've been told that it was, but I don't know, right? So I got to question everything. Well, it seems that Drift is getting like damn near $150 million of funding from Tether and partners because it's going to replace Circle stablecoin with USDT after their massive exploit. Will Canny from CoinDesk takes us down another rabbit hole. Drift Protocol, the victim of a recent North Korean exploit, plans to relaunch with Tether's USDT as its settlement layer after securing a proposed funding package of up to $147.5 million from the stablecoin issuer and its partners, the company said on Thursday. The deal includes $127.5 million from Tether and $20 million from the other partners, structured to support user recovery following Drift's April 1st exploit and to reboot the platform as a USDT-based perpetual futures exchange on Solana. God dang it. Previously, the platform used Circle's stablecoin USDC as its settlement layer. The rescue package combines a revenue-linked credit facility, ecosystem grants, and loans to market makers. A portion of trading revenue alongside committed capital will be directed to a recovery pool aimed at covering roughly $295 million in user losses over time. The funding comes after a North Korean linked group infiltrated Drift protocol posing as posing as a quantitative trading firm for about 6 months before carrying out an exploit that was more than $270 million worth on April the 1st. Drift's governance token, Drift, has lost about 70% of its value since the exploit. Circle then came under fire from the crypto community for its seeming unwillingness to halt the money transfer after the exploit. The attacker moved about $232 million worth of USDC from Solana to Ethereum using Circle's cross-chain transfer protocol, and some critics, including blockchain investigator Zach XBT, said Circle could have moved faster to blacklist wallets and freeze funds to prevent, or at least slow down, the attacker from moving the assets. However, Circles didn't take any such action due to legal risk. That's a bad sentence. Circles is an apostrophe S. It should read, however, Circle didn't take any such actions due to legal risks. Its CEO, Jeremy Allaire, later said that his company does freeze USDC wallets, but only when directed by law enforcement or the courts. Its rival, USDT, meanwhile, is more nimble at freezing funds. Pausing to say, and this is not actually all that good. The stablecoin issuer has repeatedly frozen assets linked to hacks and other illicit activities previously. Drift is the largest decentralized perpetual futures exchange on Solana with more than 175,000 users and $150 billion in cumulative trading volume. It was founded in 2021. It offers perpetuals and spot trading and lending and borrowing and cross-margin trading. Competition in stablecoins intensifies as exchanges, fintechs, and traditional financial institutions race to control the on-ramps, liquidity, and settlement layers that underpin digital asset markets. USDC has been steadily chipping away at Tether's long-standing dominance of the stablecoin market, gaining share on the back of regulatory alignment and growing institutional use. Okay, so that's essentially the end of the article. So Drift gets exploited after being infiltrated for a period of 6 months by North Korean hackers, I guess. Jeremy Allaire is the person that says, we actually have a problem freezing these funds. And then we, are reminded, and it is, from what I can tell, it's actually true that Tether has frozen more funds than Circle. And that's not a feather in Tether's cap. And as much as I cannot stand Jeremy Allaire, I actually like their attitude a little bit better. Hey, we're not freezing this shit. And not until we get a court order or law enforcement gives us a piece of paper that says, do this. And I don't like that shit either. But it seems that Tether does it more often and under less stringent situations than Circle does. Does that mean I'm flip-flopping and going to be like praising Circle? No. I still like Tether a lot better. In the company, again, not the token. I don't use USDT. I don't need it. But Jeremy Allaire was the person that was on the wrong side of the New York agreement. So that's he's never apologized for that, and I'm never going to forgive him for that, because the New York agreement sought to destroy Bitcoin at its core protocol level. It was an attack at the protocol level on Bitcoin. Jeremy Allaire signed his name to that attack. There is no way on God's green earth that I'm never going to tell you to use Circle, right? Or any product that they have, because it's all poisoned by a man who signed his name to an attack at the protocol level of the very thing that gave him riches, wealth, and notoriety. Fuck that guy. But I'm not exactly all that thrilled that Tether does this whole freezing of wallets, which is why, what? Buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin, just use Bitcoin. On to this one. Quote, Bitcoin taxes make no sense, end quote. Washington think tank argues that U.S. rules hinder everyday payments. Naga Avan Nomeo is writing this one from the block. This is why I'm bringing this to you. Because that think tank, it's the Cato Institute. I'm kind of shocked because the Cato Institute is 100% part of the problem in the world. These are the Cato Institute, the IMF, the World Monetary Fund, Federal Reserve, presidential inauguration parties, high-ups in administration in the EU and UK. All these guys fucking hang out together. They're all at everybody else's parties. They're all the ones in three-quarter tail tuxedos and bow ties and, fabulous evening gowns that you can't afford after a year of working, and a glass of champagne that would cost you an entire steak dinner. And yet, here we are with the Cato Institute, a Washington-based think tank, taking aim at the U.S. tax treatment of Bitcoin, arguing that the current framework makes everyday use of the asset as money impractical. In a blog post published this week, research fellow Nick Anthony wrote that, quote, Bitcoin taxes make no sense, end quote, pointing to capital gains rules that treat every transaction as a taxable event. Quote, it's never been easier to use Bitcoin as money, yet at the same time, the tax code puts an incredible burden on law-abiding citizens, end quote. Under current U.S. rules, Bitcoin is treated as property rather than currency. That means spending it requires users to calculate gains or losses based on when the asset was acquired and its value at the time of the transaction. The result, Anthony argued, is a system that discourages real-world use. Simply buying a cup of coffee daily using Bitcoin can translate into dozens of pages of filings over time. Each transaction must be tracked and reported individually. He also pointed to the administrative burden involved. Users must report acquisition dates, cost basis, and transaction values for every single payment, typically through Form 8949 and related filings. Beyond complexity, the structure itself incentivizes holdings over spending. Capital gains rules are designed to reward long-term investment behavior, a feature that clashes with Bitcoin's potential role as a medium of exchange, the report specifically stated. The think tank outlined several possible fixes through policy options, including eliminating capital gains taxes entirely to carving out exemptions for cryptocurrency payments. Another idea suggested in introducing a de minimis threshold to exempt smaller transactions and reduce the burden. Anthony highlighted existing protocols such as the Virtual Currency Tax Fairness Act, which would exempt gains under $200. However, Cato's researcher opined that the threshold is just too low to reflect typical consumer spending. Cato's research paper is timely considering U.S. taxpayers are currently navigating yet one more fucking filing season and evolving crypto reporting requirements. The Internal Revenue Service, the thieves that they are, has expanded disclosure rules in recent years, adding yet more layers of complexity that have already drawn criticism from industry participants. At the same time, policymakers have explored potential relief. The Trump administration has signaled support for a de minimis tax exemption for crypto transactions and said that it will continue to assess legislative options. Dude, just get rid of it. Just give us de minimis at, I don't know, $15,000 per year. Actually, there should be no tax on this. There honestly shouldn't be any taxes anyway. United States was doing just fine until, what was it, 1913 or whenever the income tax and the Federal Reserve Act was passed at Christmas with nobody in Congress present. Yeah, ask yourself that fucking question. Yesterday was tax day, and today is the day after, so technically tax season is over, although not for a lot of us who file exemptions, or not exemptions, but extensions. Because I got to go back through all this bullshit back in August, because it's like the The extension is like 6 months. So it's like I have to do the extension filing and then I have to do the actual taxes later. I'm fucking tired of it. I'm just sick of it. None of this makes any sense anymore. Just print the money that you need. You've been doing it for 25 years, well, longer than that, but let's just say since 2001, when the towers came down, the printers went burr. But I want to talk about something else. The Circle P is open for business. It's where I bring plebs just like you with goods and services to plebs just like you who want to buy those goods and services, but you will buy it in Bitcoin, because if you ain't selling it in Bitcoin, you're not in the Circle P. And Great Ghee is one of my feature vendors in the Circle P. Great Ghee, grass-fed A2 ghee cooking fat. First, what's ghee? Clarified butter. Why is it important? Because it gets rid of all the water that's left in butter. It gets rid of all the protein that's left in butter. It gets rid of any residual milk-based sugars that's left in butter. And you're just left with pure, golden animal fat. It'll give you a smoking temperature of up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. You can do some serious searing with this product right here. What's A2A2? That's the gene of the cow that the milk is coming from. There's a protein that's in milk, and if it's not the A2A2 gene that is responsible for building that particular protein, then a slightly mutated, and don't freak out about that, but a slightly mutated form of that very same protein is then in milk, and some people have a problem with it. How that gene got mutated was this, we need cows that produce more milk. Let's crossbreed this cow with this cow and that cow with that cow and take the offspring of this cow and we'll take it over here and get it bred by that bull and blah. And after 75 years of playing with God's creation, we end up with a slight mutation in one of these milk proteins, and it causes some allergic reactions in humans. If you're one of these people that have a problem drinking milk, try A2A2 milk. Not just A2. You actually need to look for A2/A2. That means that both parts of, well, I don't want to get into a biology lesson here, but every individual carries one form of a gene from their mom and a different form of the same gene from the father. If both of them are exactly the same, generally speaking, this is good. Like your mom has brown eyes, your dad has brown eyes, and both of them give you the brown eye gene, you're going to get brown eyes, right? Same thing here. You want the A2 gene from the mommy, and you want the A2 gene from the daddy in the offspring that's producing your milk, and that guarantees you're going to get the correct protein. Although, when you think about it, maybe it shouldn't matter because, I don't know, we're going to take all the protein out when Great Ghee produces his Great Ghee, because all the protein falls out and all you're left with is pure gold fat that heats up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit before it even smokes. This is a fabulous product. I've tried it myself. It's absolutely gorgeous, and you can buy it in Bitcoin. And if you will need to go get the affiliate link that's in the show notes, it's a link. You can just click it in the show notes. It'll take you right to the buying page, and it lets Great Ghee know that I made a sale for him here on the Bitcoin and podcast through the Circle P. That's Great Ghee. And make sure that you use the code Bitcoin and. Just actually, you don't really need to do that, but I just want people to always use the code Bitcoin and when they shop anywhere they go. I just want to make it a habit. Okay, Virginia enacts a law requiring the state to hold unclaimed crypto in its original form as crypto for 1 full year. Micah Zimmerman writing for Bitcoin Magazine. Virginia has now enacted a new framework for unclaimed digital assets that requires the state to hold dormant cryptocurrency in its original form for a set period before any sale. Governor Abigail Spanberger signed House Bill 798 into law April the 14th, marking a shift in how the state handles abandoned crypto accounts. The measure will take effect on July the 1st, 2026, and updates Virginia's unclaimed property statute to include digital assets. Under the law, cryptocurrency held in customer accounts that show no activity for 5 years will be presumed abandoned and transferred to state custody. Unlike prior practices in many jurisdictions, the assets must be transferred in kind, meaning the state takes possession of the actual tokens rather than converting them into cash upon receipt. The change addresses a long-standing concern among crypto users and industry firms. In many cases, states have liquidated digital assets soon after taking custody, leaving owners who later reclaim the funds with only the cash value at the time of sale. That approach exposed claimants to the risk of missing gains during market increases. There's more to the article, but we don't need it. There's two things here. One, this is good. Two, this is bad. Why it's good is that they don't immediately make the sale of the cryptocurrency at the time of receipt of the unclaimed asset. The bad part is the unclaimed asset. And you might ask, dude, if I die and nobody has, my private keys to my hardware wallet, and I live in Virginia, how the hell is Virginia going to get a hold of my Bitcoin? They're not. They can't. It's impossible. So what the hell are they talking about? Well, as we've seen, more and more banks are offering Bitcoin custody. You've got Charles Schwab out there. You've got Goldman Sachs out there. You got all, whether they're brokerage accounts or full banks or whatever, everybody's getting into this game, and all of them are offering custodial services. That's where the problem occurs. Once you hand over the custodianship of your Bitcoin to somebody else, or instead of buying it yourself and handing over the custody, you just call up Charles Schwab and say, buy me Bitcoin at spot and hold it for me. Well, they've got custody. And if for whatever reason you live in Virginia, I don't know what kind of deal Virginia has with somebody like, let's just pick on Charles Schwab. Do they say, does Charles Schwab have to file a report? Hey, this guy hasn't called us for 5 years. There's no email. He hasn't even logged on to his account, and he lives in Virginia. So here's our letter to the Virginia state, whatever, that says this guy hasn't been active for 5 years. Therefore, it may be unclaimed property. I don't know how this works. I really wish somebody would do a deeper dive into just how this unclaimed property action works. But this is the issue. It's going to be the custodians that have licenses in the state of Virginia and a couple of other states that are also doing this, and I can't remember the names of them offhand. But that's the problem. For anybody who thinks that this has anything to do with your Bitcoin on your hardware wallet that you have the private keys to and nobody else does, this does not apply to you. All right, please, 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 please. And if somebody asks you that question, oh, well, if you haven't used your hardware wallet in 5 years, and you live in Virginia, won't Virginia just take your Bitcoin? It does not work that way. It does not work that way. It does not work that way. Let's run the numbers. CNBC futures and commodities, energy is all in the green today again. Brent North Sea up 3.8% to 98.59. May oil contracts for West Texas Intermediate up 2.5 to 93.61. Natural gas up 0.8% to $2.63 per thousand. And gasoline is up over 2 points to $3.13 per gallon. Murban crude up 0.6% to $101.48. Metals are all in the red. Palladium down a quarter. Gold down, it's basically sideways, but it's $4,822.05. Platinum down a half. Silver is down 0.8 to 78.93. Copper is down 0.07%. Ag is pretty much mixed today. Biggest loser is coffee, 2.4% to the downside. Biggest winner is wheat, 1.25% to the upside. Live cattle is down 1.38%. Lean hogs unchanged. and feeder cattle down 1.25%. And then there's Bitcoin, which is just bouncing around between 76,000 and 73,000. Right now, it's at $74,580, $1.49 trillion market cap. We can get 15.6 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 20,016,507.4 of. Average fees per block are normal. There's about 32 blocks carrying 48,000 unconfirmed transactions waiting to clear at high priority rates of 2 sats per VByte, low priorities 0.4. 986 exahashes per second is the hash rate on the Bitcoin network, a little bit more than yesterday. I am unconcerned. Now, I would read you the boost from episode 1300, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin but it's still not on Fountain. It's still not on Fountain. Man, I've never seen this happen. I've never had an episode of Bitcoin not go to Fountain. And it's really screwing up my numbers too, man. My download numbers are like, woo! Because most of my audience listens on Fountain, which is, not surprising considering that every show announcement I have directly links to the Fountain episode. I don't use the Apple Podcast link or YouTube link. I use the fountain.fm link. And it is painful to watch today when I'm looking at metrics. I'm like, oh my God, dude, maybe I'm a little too dependent on Fountain. Maybe I should rotate, when I do show releases, maybe I should rotate the actual URL to a couple of different platforms. But don't get me wrong, man. Fountain.fm is still my go-to daily driver podcasting 2 app. If you want to support the show, use Fountain. It's okay. Just because this is a glitch, man, I'm not upset. I promise I'm not upset. And I'm still going to expound on how Fountain is one of my favorite. Actually, it's my favorite. It's my daily driver for podcast apps, and not the least of which is that it's fully Podcast 2.0 enabled. You can stream me sats to support the show. You can give me boosts in Satoshis to support the show. It's great. You get chapters. I mean, I could even put individual chapter art. If I had a bunch of people, hanging around me creating art like they do on No Agenda. Shit, man, I could have every chapter have a different piece of art, and it would rotate on your podcast app as that chapter starts playing. That's how much fun Podcasting 2.0 is. Apple Podcasts still doesn't have that feature. You can't stream Satoshis or boost my show on Spotify. They don't have most of these features. They have got a couple of them, but it's going to be a long slog for them to get up to speed. So if you're using a legacy podcast app and you're not getting the ability to support the Bitcoin podcast by boosting and streaming Satoshis, consider Fountain at fountain.fm. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. You know what I love about not loving nor hating Trump? I can report on anything about Trump that I want. And that's coming up. But first, Bitcoin ETFs at $186 million as Morgan Stanley's brand spanking new MSBT inflows top $100 million in its first 6 trading days. Brian Danga brings it to us from the block. And he says, U.S. spot Bitcoin exchange traded funds recorded their second consecutive day of net inflows on Wednesday, adding $186.1 million following the prior session's $411.5 million influx. The 13 fund group has now accumulated around $57.1 billion since the ETF's first launched January 2024, with total net assets reaching $97.6 billion as of April the 15th, or 6.5% of Bitcoin's market cap, according to SoSo value data. Only 2 funds posted positive flows on Wednesday, including BlackRock's IBIT, which led all products with $291.9 million, its largest single-day inflow since the beginning of April. Morgan Stanley's brand new MSBT ranked number 2, but with only $19.3 million. Notably, Morgan Stanley's MSBT has eclipsed a primary competitor within its first week of operations. Just 6 trading days after its market debut, MSBT reached more than $103 million in total net inflows, moving past the $86 million cumulative total held by the Wisdom Tree Bitcoin Fund, according to Farside data. Meanwhile, 8 funds recorded 0 net flows on the day. Bitcoin traded above 74,600 on Thursday, and then they get into a bunch of price talk. The point is that we are starting to get a little bit of data from whether or not Morgan Stanley's new Bitcoin product is going to do anything, and it looks like it did. And that's from what? I mean, think about it this way. You got 12 Bitcoin ETFs that all released essentially on the same day. You know, back in January 2024, I can't remember exactly what day it was, but they all seemed to open for trading within 48 hours of each other. Right after the total approval was given, next thing you know, IBIT is like off to the races. And everybody's the rest of the 11 are catching up, and I think one has already gone defunct. I'm not exactly sure. Doesn't matter. The funds did very well cumulatively, and clearly BlackRock's IBIT beat the crap out of all of them, but it doesn't really matter. So 2 years later, actually well over 2 years later, over 2 years later, here comes Morgan Stanley getting into the same race. They couldn't possibly do really all that good, could they? Well, they did. They did a stupendous job already. 6 trading days. 6. Dude, what's the number? $100 million of inflow in Morgan Stanley's MSBT in the first 6 days. How did that happen? How did they beat everybody but BlackRock in 6 days? You know, how did they take the number 2 spot already? 16,000 individual financial advisors. An army of people with phones that can call an army of retail plebs and say, hey, we are open for business on Bitcoin. What do you want to do? That's how. That's why it was that 16,000 individual financial advisors. That's why that number was important. That's why I kept harping on it. You know, we think of 16,000 cars, and we don't think that's that many cars, but 16,000 financial advisors is a lot of advisors. That is an army. Literally an army. Like the first army of the United States Army, the second army of the United States Army. Each army is actually classified as its own army under the umbrella of the United States Army, and 16,000 is an army. It is actually technically an army of people. And they did get on the phone, and they did call their retail plebs, and they sold Bitcoin. That's why Morgan Stanley is just, wow, I'm impressed. You don't need an ETF because you have every ability to buy Bitcoin yourself and hold it yourself, and you should. But this ETF stuff isn't going away, and you might as well celebrate where you can, right? You might as well take the win, dude. Just take the win, even though that later on it may actually kind of suck. Right now, I just want to take the win because I'm tired of $74,000. I'm bored to death. But here's a guy that's not bored. Trump. United States probes suspicious oil trades made before Trump-Iran pivots, according to a source. It was going to have to happen. It was going to have to happen. This is out of Reuters. The U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC, is examining a series of trades in oil futures placed shortly before major shifts in President Donald Trump's Iran war policy, according to a person familiar with the matter, said on Wednesday. CFTC Chairman Michael Selig said in remarks prepared for delivery to Congress on Thursday that the agency will go after wrongdoers. It's like living in a comic book. But nothing in the testimony addressed any specific investigation, and an agency spokesperson declined to comment. Quote, I want to be crystal clear. To anyone who engages in fraud, manipulation, or insider trading in any of our markets, we will find you and you will face the full force of the law, Selig said in the remarks seen by Reuters. I'm interested to know why they aren't going after Nancy Pelosi or any of the other Congress people that are doing this. And don't tell me about this, well, it's legal for them to do it. It's still not legal for them to do it. It's just not. Is there a potential loophole that could muddy the infrastructural waters around the justice involved in whether or not a congressperson involved themselves in insider trading? Yes, there is. And that's why they're not being prosecuted. And the other reason is because, well, it's a giant club and you aren't in it. So I'm taking pretty much everything Michael Selig says here and putting it in the toilet and hoping it doesn't clog up the drains. The CFTC probe is focused on trading of oil futures contracts on platforms belonging to CME Group and Intercontinental Exchange, with investigators examining at least 2 instances of oil trades made on March the 23rd and April the 7th. Very well-timed trades may have generated millions of dollars in profits, drawing concern from lawmakers and legal experts that decisions around war and diplomacy can create opportunities for abuse in volatile and opaque derivatives markets. Investors placed an approximate $950 million bet on oil prices just hours before the U.S. and Iran announced a ceasefire last week. There was similarly well-timed trading in the oil market back on March the 23rd. The data requested from the exchanges include the so-called Tag 50 identifications of the entities behind the trades. Quote, at CME Group, we vigorously surveil our markets and work closely with CFTC to oversee trading activity, a spokesperson said in the statement, adding that any review of market behavior must include all venues, including prediction markets that list related products with little to no visibility. ICE, on the other hand, has declined to comment on the matter. The White House warned staff against improperly leveraging their positions to place bets in futures markets amid the ongoing war. The CFTC's enforcement director said last month that the agency was aware of speculation regarding insider trading in CFTC-regulated markets, and they were watching. Then in a statement, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, a prominent overseer and critic of the CFTC, said the agency probe is a start and that regulators should do more to investigate any insider trading by administration officials. The White House has not responded to a request for comment either. Yeah, there's more than 2 of these trades, dude. And the hours before statement on at least one of those trades is complete bullshit. Try 15 minutes. Because that's what actually happened. And we knew about that shit like 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. Just saying, man. I'm just. Now, here's the thing. Am I blaming Trump? No. Why is it that I'm not blaming Trump? Because I don't know if Trump actually did anything. But I also don't know if he didn't. One thing is for sure, somebody somewhere who had information on what was going to happen is responsible for placing that bet or those bets. And they made out like bandits on insider trading. That shit, in my gut, I am absolutely certain of. Is it a friend of Donald Trump? I don't know. I'm not there. This is the whole thing with the moonshot. I don't know if we actually landed on the moon. Why? Because I wasn't there. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I'd actually have to be in the room with these people and hear what they're saying and watch what they're doing for a very good amount of time before I could even competently come up with a conclusion as to what the fuck actually happened. But somebody somewhere knew something was going to happen, made a bet, and won. That's what happened. But we got one more Trump story to go right behind that one. Trump's world liberty under fire for, quote, absurd token unlock plan. Cointelegraph. The Trump family's crypto platform, World Liberty Financial, is now facing backlash over the new proposal to lock up tokens purchased by early investors for up to 4 years, or in some cases indefinitely. World Liberty posted the proposal to its governance forum on Wednesday, which outlined that early investors would have their World Liberty financial tokens locked for a further 2 years before their tokens would be released in batches over the following 2 years. According to the proposal, token holders who do not accept the new unlock schedule would, quote, continue to have their tokens locked indefinitely, end quote. The proposal saw wide opposition, with crypto entrepreneur Justin Sun, one of the platform's advisors and biggest investor, posting to X on Wednesday that the plan was, quote, one of the most absurd governance scams I have ever seen. Justin Sun calling something a scam is rich, dude. Rich. Justin Sun, who holds a 4% stake in World Liberty that is currently frozen, has recently made a series of public criticisms against the platform, taking issue with separate proposals and accusing it of having controls to blacklist wallets, which World Liberty denied. Other critics of the proposal include Simon Dedek, the founder of venture firm Moonrock Capital, who posted to X that early WLFI investors who thought they were sitting on solid profits just got rugged. Quote, this essentially gives them another shot at squeezing the same lemon they've been inflating with hot air for the past 2 years, which, what a surprise, lines up perfectly with the remainder of Donald Trump's term. World Liberty Financial didn't respond to questions about the backlash, but spokesperson David Wachsman told Cointelegraph in an emailed statement that the proposal, quote, was designed to further align all the participants in the WLFI ecosystem for the long run, end quote. Sun's specific criticisms centered on the plan to indefinitely lock the tokens of those who disagreed with the proposal, accusing the platform of coercion. He also took issue with being forced out of his voting position due to World Liberty's freeze of his tokens and claimed that a large number of holders with significant voting rights are in the exact same position. Watchman added that voting on the proposal would begin soon, TM, and would run for a week. The price of the token has traded flat at 8 cents over the past 24 hours, but is down by more than 40% so far this year, alongside a wider retraction in the crypto and share markets. WLFI has fallen by more than 75% since its all-time high of 33 cents on September the 1st. So that plan I told you about yesterday, people are howling like wolves about it. They're not liking it. But I'm honestly kind of surprised that they're only talking about backlash, that the only backlash that we're hearing about, at least in this story, is about the possible indefinite holds on people that don't agree with this, and the automatic holds of even the people that do agree with this, but they will be unlocked over time. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm sorry about that. Where was I? Yes, the fact that the only backlash is coming about this. Dude, the whole fact that the governance tokens are going to be turned into a liquid tradable asset where they weren't supposed to be before How I'm not hearing any backlash over that, because that right there, that's problematic. Doesn't matter. I don't give a shit about WLFI, but this is just chicanery, man. It's shit coinery, it's rug pulling, it's the same shit that we've always seen, and it's never going to end. I wish it would. God, I wish it would end, but it's just everybody is a shit coiner. What? Whatever. Killing Satoshi. Let's get to this one. It's going to end us for the day. $70 million Bitcoin film starring Casey Affleck is going to make heavy use of artificial intelligence. And I say, what could possibly go wrong? Logan Hitchcock, Decrypt.co, writing, an upcoming full-feature movie produced with artificial intelligence will star crypto and its leading asset, Bitcoin, according to a report from the Wrap. Quote, Bitcoin Killing Satoshi, directed by Born Identity director Doug Liman, will feature a star-studded cast including Gal Gadot, Casey Affleck, Isla Fisher, and Pete Davidson, with a $70 million budget and a major assist from AI tools. Designed as a thriller focused on Bitcoin and the search for the pseudonymous creator Satoshi Nakamoto, the film follows a plot across continents and some 200 locations of various climates, according to the report, but none of it was filmed on location. Quote, we decided to use AI very early on, producer Ryan Kavanaugh told the Wrap. We budgeted out what it would be to do it practically, and it was over $300 million. We realized we could bring down the cost by utilizing some of the AI tools out there. The film was shot inside a former car showroom that they wrapped in a gray screen, earning it the moniker The Gray Box. And inside that box, as seen in behind-the-scenes set photos at the Wrap, the settings and lighting were produced with AI, but the performances were all the work of real actors without alteration. Quote, the performance is captured in a very unique way using our AI protocols, Kavanaugh told the publication. So, when the scene is generated, the AI is taking the performance and building everything within the performance frame. End quote. Bitcoin Killing Satoshi is expected to be shopped to potential buyers at the Cannes International Film Festival next week, according to the report. The film's shopping is timely, given the resurgent and recurrent conversations around the identity of Bitcoin's creator, and last week a New York Times expose named major Bitcoin personality Adam Back as the creator of the asset. Back, of course, denied the claim, calling the piece a combination of coincidence and similar phrases from people with similar experiences and interests. In 2024, HBO documentary entitled Money Electric, The Bitcoin Mystery, said that the BTC core developer Peter Todd was really the creator, and Todd said no. Another film, Finding Satoshi, is expected to attempt to unmask the Bitcoin builder when it debuts next week. The mysterious Bitcoin founder disappeared. Yes, we all know, and that's essentially the end of the article. So there's a couple things here. One, Casey Affleck. And even though, even though this is, I'm spinning back up to the first, even though this is a film about Satoshi, and I'm not sure, what this is going to look like. I mean, I hope it's not cringe. I really do. I can only hope that it's not cringe. That's all I can say there. But Casey Affleck isn't anything to sneeze at if you're talking about Hollywood talent. It's an expensive talent. Now, Gal Gadot, I've heard about her, probably fairly expensive too, but Casey Affleck, not exactly anything to sneeze at this point. That said, they're going to be using AI. Again, how cringe can we be? I hope it's not. I hope they know what they're doing with AI, but it's going to be interesting to see. $70 million feature-length film, that's a lot of money. It could, $300 million price tag to do it conventionally, it's a lot of money, but $70 million, nothing to sneeze at, and it's about Bitcoin and Satoshi. But here's the thing that I really want to illustrate. The director. Who's the director? Doug Liman, or Lyman, however you want to pronounce it, did The Bourne Identity. Dude, I love that movie. That movie is a good movie. I love that whole freaking series. Is it kind of a mindless, action thing? Yeah, but it gets a little deep because it is like about identity. So there's that whole thing, but it's wrapped in an action flick, but it's good. The cinematography is good. The script is good. The acting is good. This is a good director. This isn't a shitty director. It's a good director, a well-known director with a $70 million budget, Casey Affleck and Gal Gadot, about Bitcoin. The only drawback here really is two things. Is AI going to make me cringe? And are they going to get their story right and also make me not cringe? But I've already got a red flag flying up. They say that this film follows a plot across continents and 200 locations of various climates. My question is why? What are they planning to do in this film that needs 200 locations? And of course the locations are all AI generated, but still. Across continents? 200 separate locations? What the hell was going on? I mean, are we going to go visit like the homes of every single person that was on the Bitcoin mailing list or the cypherpunk mailing list? Is that what they're planning on doing? Because this sounds like I don't know. I don't know what it sounds like, but it sounds a little weird that they're going that way. Anyway, it'll be interesting to watch the movie. I will definitely watch it. I just hope that I don't barf. And I hope you don't either. That is the end of today's show. And episode 1301 being in the bag, I can only hope that it finds its way to fountain.com. If it does not, I don't know what to tell you other than that in the show notes of every single show is a link to Podlink. All right. And that will give you, let's see, listen anywhere. Actually, it's like right now I've got it as episodes.fm. Look for listen everywhere, episodes.fm. You click that link, it will take you right to my show and will give you the latest episode of that show on every platform that show is on. So you'll see the show. It'll say episode 1300 or 1301. To the right-hand side, there will be a list. Click any one of those. It will take you right to that platform, directly to that episode. You won't have to search for it. That's what I love about episodes.fm, which I think is actually now called Podlink, but this link actually still works. Actually, I'm just going to test it out right now just to make damn sure. Yep. It resolves to pod.link and will take you right to my show. And there's a button down below it that says like you'll see my show on the left-hand side. There's a big button that says latest episode. And if I click that, it takes me to episode 1300. On the right-hand side, you can go to Apple Podcasts, CastBox, Pocket Cast, iVoox, Spotify, G-Podder, TuneIn Radio, whatever. Good Pods, True Fans, CurioCaster. It's like, I think there's like 35 or 40 different places. So if you don't see it on Fountain, then you can always go to the show notes. And I don't know how you'd get there. If you're only using Fountain and my episode doesn't come up on Fountain, I don't know how you'd get there. I need to start up my website again so I can do that. This would be a good time to do that. Anyways, there's just several. You can see this, like if you're using Fountain, follow me on a couple of other podcasting apps, like if you've got a backup podcasting app, and that'll help. That'll actually help the visibility of the show as well. If you do all that, I would highly appreciate it, and I will see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.